Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lulwa Gaith, welcoming you to our special media coverage that's coming to you from Kuwait KTV2 studios to follow up on the main events and news about the 45th GCC Summit hosted by the State of Kuwait. In this coverage, we will shed light on the key events and activities included in the summit's agenda. For more than 40 years, the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, has proven to be an integral organisation in the Middle East and the entire world through its economic cooperation, its role in strengthening the bond of the Gulf states and the Arab world. The Gulf Cooperation Council has and continues to have a positive role on the regional and international scene. Before we proceed with our special episode, let's take a look at the history of the Gulf Cooperation Council and how it was established.
In January 1968, Britain announced its intention to leave the Gulf by 1971, and 10 years later, through the taking of several steps, the formation of the Gulf Cooperation Council took place on May 25, 1981. During the 3 years between the British announcement of its impending withdrawal and actual termination of its protectorate and military presence in the Gulf on December 16, 1971, 6 emirates succeeded in forming the United Arab Emirates, which was founded on December 2, 1971. His Highness the late Emir Sheikh Jabir al-Ahmed al-Sabah championed the renewed efforts to form the GCC. In May 1976, he formally called for the establishment of the GCC during a visit to the United Arab Emirates, whose president was the late Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, strongly supporting the idea. In November 1976 in Muscat, a security framework was discussed but abandoned because of fundamental differences over the concept. Efforts continued to be established in the GCC. In October 1979, a meeting was held in Taif, Saudi Arabia. The general framework of the GCC was agreed, but differences remained on some issues. Some favored focusing on security and military integration, while others wanted the new organization to emphasize soft power and economic integration. In 1980, Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Prince Saud Al Faisal was given the task of bringing the different views together and leading the exercise of drafting the charter, supported by the foreign ministers of Kuwait, Bahrain, and others. A flurry of meetings of ministers and experts took place in the early months of 1981 in Kuwait, Riyadh, and Muscat to finalize the draft, which was adopted by the heads of the state on May 25, 1981 in Abu Dhabi, in the first formal meeting of the new organization. The GCC charter was a compromise between the different formulations discussed for the new group. It called for the coordination and integration between the member states in all fields, leading to their unity. The reference to unity as a goal was important to guide the work of the organization. The reference to all fields gave the impetus for the formation of the institutional structures dedicated to different branches of integration, including political, economic, and security. Today, the GCC Secretariat employs more than 1,000 employees from the 6 member states and hosts the main policy-making divisions of the organization. Its work is aided by about 30 specialized entities that deal with specific issues. There are economic organizations such as standards, patents, intellectual property, and investment, as well as military and security organizations. Since its inception in May 1981, the GCC has undoubtedly accomplished a lot of what it set out to do 4 decades ago. Economic tools such as the Free Trade Area, which was set up in 1983, the Customs Union, and the Common Market have created great interactions between member states that have led to improved efficiencies and wide as well as dynamic markets. Today, the combined GCC GDP is about 1.6 trillion US dollars, an 8-fold increase over 1981. Other significant achievements were also made, including the establishment of the Unified Military Command in November 2018, and the GCC police force in 2014.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's join our guest, Dr. Salah Hamadi, Economy Professor and Strategic Advisor. Good afternoon, Dr. Hamadi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Hamadi, can you tell us how significant is the GCC summit for the region amid the current wave of challenges and changes witnessed in the Middle East region?
Well, the GCC Council, if you look at it, I mean, it's very important council for the region, especially if we talk about the 6th member of the GCC and to the Middle East. Since its start in 1981, the idea is to unify the Gulf region. If we look at a bit to the history, how it was created, because of the geopolitics tension back then, the war between Iraq and Iran, and the idea is to unify the economics, security, all the geopolitics tension. I mean, if we look at the economic side, there's a lots of now trade between, the GCC country, I believe, is about $1.6 trillion. Okay. And that put the the GCC in talk about the trade part of it. For example, the customs, unifying the customs, as well as the common market in the GCC. All these issues, it's facilitating the trade in one part if we talk about the economical issues. In terms of security wise, there's the initiative of the military, command force that's based in King Khalid's base. Also the police was, I believe, the police force was initiated in 2014, if I could remember. Also put the GCC country in collaboration in many different ways, in terms of economics, in terms of security, in terms of, so therefore the importance of the GCC summit nowadays, that we have lots of tension. We look at it from what is happening in Palestine nowadays, Lebanon, Yemen, Sudan. There's a lot of tension around here, and the GCC is one, actually is very important. If we look at they had the EU summit just back in October 16. So it is very important for the region, it's very important for the Middle East, and it's for the global, because the GCC is it's a very important committee for the global.
Dr. Hamadi, as the Gulf leaders are emphasizing on finding resolutions to the economic and security crisis in the region, how will this summit address this particular matter?
Well, the summit is, of course, is going to touch base on the continuation of what happened last year in Qatar summit. For example, the customs union, that have to be addressed and put all the economic issue on the table to be discussed. This will ease the trade between the GCC members themselves, as well as there will be, we're talking about the interconnect of electricity. So starting from Oman, all the surplus of electricity will be shared among the GCC country, and this will put a benefit to the people of the GCC, and therefore would not has to suffer the cutting of electricity. as well as in the table also the interconnect of the railway network.
Yes.
This is very important because, you know, the culture of the GCC in the old time, mobilizing through cars. Now, with the new, of course, we need to have the train or the railway network in place, where mobilizing not just people but even trade. It will be faster, less pollution, cheaper way of traveling, more secured, more fashion in terms of being, you know, we are in 2024, and you know, basically in Saudi Arabia now, and they have opened the Riyadh train or the underground, which is very interesting to look at. The interconnect or the railway, it has, of course, passed lots of challenges, but the good things is they are closer to implemented in all the GCC countries. So therefore, this will make the trade, that will make the economical you know, issues is more facilitating between the 6 members of the GCC.
Right. Dr. Hamadi, what are the actions and efforts needed to be taken to secure better economic conditions for the Gulf states people?
Well, the most important is to standardize the regulations of trade. So if, for example, the you know, Kuwait goods and services sold in Saudi Arabia has to be treated as you know, the same as the Gulf nations. The same thing with the other countries being, I'm talking about the GCC countries. Yes. This will facilitate the trade itself. So having a standard customs, unifying it, this will make the trade itself lots easier in terms of you know, regulation, in terms of even the taxes, if they will put. So the idea is to eliminate any taxes between the trade itself, where you can have, I mean, by having this, you can make the GCC market more stronger to, you know, to be even exporting to the world. For example, we have the biggest, you know, we import mostly from China. But having the free trade among the GCC, we could have more collaboration with international companies, and we can have this, make it more benefit to the GCC country itself.
Perfect. Dr. Hamadi, thank you. We will turn now and watch this report. Thank you.
Their Majesties and Highnesses, the leaders of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, will gather in the capital of Kuwait to attend the 45th Gulf Summit, scheduled for December the 1st, coupling with the intensive preparations made by the Kuwaiti government and leadership to hold and host this summit. In reflection of the commitment of both His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, may Allah bless and protect him, and His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamid Al-Sabah, may Allah protect him, to the development of the GCC. Kuwait is hosting a series of events designed to inform both citizens and expatriates in Kuwait about the significant achievements of the GCC, while fostering a sense of Gulf unity and belonging, called the Gulf Weeks, alongside the 45th GCC Summit. For its part, the Ministry of Information launched a comprehensive media campaign under the slogan, "The Future is Gulf," which aims to raise awareness about the Gulf Summit and to promote it. The upcoming summit comes at a very sensitive stage that the Middle East is currently going through, and looking at the map of conflicts within the region, it becomes clear that it forms a cordon around the Arabian Gulf, from Gaza to Lebanon, all the way to Iran in the east, and Bab el-Mandeb and the Red Sea in the west, which means a direct impact on Gulf security. These facts impose on the Gulf states to be more vigilant and take more decisive positions on many issues, in addition to the fact that the GCC countries have an effective role in calming tensions and adopting initiatives aimed at preventing these conflicts from getting out of control. The summit will focus on supporting Saudi Arabia's efforts in the two-state solution, as well as Qatar's ongoing efforts to mediate a ceasefire agreement, stop the aggression on Gaza, and provide relief to the residents of the Gaza Strip, in addition to various issues related to the Yemeni and Ukrainian files, climate, cybercrimes, and others. The Gulf states will also discuss the mechanisms for dealing with and adapting to the new U.S. administration after Donald Trump won the presidential election in the United States, and the transformations that his arrival to the White House may impose. The 45th Gulf Cooperation Council Leaders Summit is expected to be different from its predecessors, given the turbulent geopolitical conditions. However, despite this, there remains a state of harmony that has always prevailed in the Gulf, which furthers the achievements made in the framework of strengthening common ties and Gulf cohesion.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Hamadi, I'd like to ask you, the state of Kuwait has multilateral depth, knowledge and experience stemming from its membership in various regional and international organizations, including the GCC. Now, how do you evaluate the role of the state of Kuwait through the Gulf initiatives and key decisions?
Well, the state of Kuwait has always been a key player in its diplomacy.
Yes.
Starting with Sheikh Sabah, rahmatullah alayh, that he's the father of diplomacy back then, where he started the diplomacy of Kuwait and has been as a key role intermediator. Look at the history of Kuwait and how it's been always in front of when there is a conflict. We're talking about regional, if we talk about the GCC, where the, of course, there was always tension. We don't have the conflict itself, but we have tension, which is normal. People get, But always Kuwait played its diplomacy, its intermediator, as being intermediator in the GCC and in international. Middle East-wise, Kuwait is always playing a key role in, the Palestinian, the Middle East conflict. Where they have their voice in the United Nations. It's been played as a key player in Yemen conflict, in Sudan, in different places. Always Kuwait's been as a great figure, as being an intermediator because of its position in negotiation and not being in violence or any aggression or in terrorism act. So therefore, Kuwait is always in the lead player in trying to facilitate the tension in every place and being as the key model as an intermediator.
The Doha declarations affirmed the importance of continuous implementation of the components of economic unity among GCC states. So what's the current summit expected to add in this regard?
Well, the current summit, I believe, will have to continue and close some of the economic issue. For example, the customs union has to be put in place and has to be put in action. So this will take times. Lots of committee has been set, been talked in terms of ministers, in terms of foreign ministers. So the Qatar summit was put in place also the free trade or the common market. This common market should accelerate, should enhance the trade between the Gulf region. Product that you see in, for example, in Kuwait, you could see it easily in UAE. Also, the what was in Qatar of, because in Qatar was the escalation, the beginning of the aggression of Israeli on Palestine. So there was a big talk on that and how should put a ceasefire. Things has to be done in the negotiation part, not to escalate the issue. So in Sheikh Tamim's speech last year in the 44th summit, he mentioned, of course, the economic side and how to escalate the economic side of the GCC, and he emphasized on the geopolitics tension in the region, especially the conflict of the Israeli Gaza or the Palestinian at that time, and he was also, inviting the global committee to be part of this, and I believe Egypt, Morocco, all these are a big player in trying to ease the escalation of the Israeli Palestinians.
Dr. Hamadi, what were the most significant resolutions of the 44th GCC summit held in Qatar last year?
Well, that says that the most significant one is the economics part of it, is that to escalate, to continue having the one market, as well as the continuation of the 44th will take a place right now, is how to make the GCC market a better place to compete with the international market. You know, we have, as the GCC, we have the main energy as far as oil, gas, and these are, we have the most cleaner oil and gas, and that's what it's wanted by the European Committee, by the Chinese, and there was if you remember, in May of last year, of this year, sorry, the Central Asia was a meeting with the GCC in Saudi Arabia. So the economics part is here, as we control, or we have the most valuable source of energy and commodity for the rest of the world. We have to have a unified economics, a unified customs to trade among the GCC countries themselves.
To make it easier for everyone to be able to do the trade.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this short break. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us via telephone is our strategic expert Khalid Al-Sallal for further details on the summit. Good afternoon and welcome to the program, Mr. Al-Sallal. I would like to ask you, how can the GCC's 45th summit enhance collective GCC foreign policy strategies?
The 45th Gulf Leaders Summit in Kuwait is expected to discuss a number of important files at all levels, especially those related to priority local files and urgent external files, such as the Gaza war, and the risks of the war expanding. The most important prominent issues expected to be on the summit table are economic growth, strategic linkage projects, as well as employment, localization, and diversification of sources of income, preserving the Gulf and national identity, and protecting security and stability. Without a doubt, the Israeli aggression on Gaza and Lebanon will be at the top of the priorities of the Gulf Summit, and the resulting risks to international shipping lines in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, in addition to discussing the risk of the expansion of the conflict and the possibility of a direct confrontation between Iran and Israel. Also, the summit may focus on supporting Saudi Arabia efforts in the issue of the two-state solution, as well as Qatar's ongoing efforts to mediate in order to reach a ceasefire agreement, stop the aggression on Gaza, and provide relief to the residents in Gaza. In addition to various issues related to Yemeni and Ukrainian files, climate, cyber crimes, and others. It is also not unlikely that the leaders of the Gulf states will discuss the mechanism for dealing without and adapting to the new American administration after Donald Trump won the upcoming presidential term in the United States. And the transformation that his arrival to the White House again may impose, and the priorities of the Cooperation Council in dealing with this administration.
In your opinion, Mr. Sallal, what steps are needed to strengthen the GCC's position amid global geopolitical shifts?
This summit is expected to focus on regional security and common security challenges. In addition to discussing ways to enhance economic and trade cooperation between member states, it will also seek to unify positions on regional and international issues, especially in light of the ongoing escalation attempts by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu towards Iran. The summit reflects to the permanent commitment of GCC countries to hold regular meetings as part of the joint cooperation process. But the real difference between one summit and another is often determined by the extent to which it coincides with the major events that cast a shadow over its agenda and priorities. This time, the summit comes at a sensitive time, characterized by complex regional challenges. Kuwait has paid great attention to its preparation by holding intensive meetings to ensure the success of the summit, reflecting its commitment to its leadership, the leadership of Kuwait's role in supporting joint Gulf action. The summit is expected to come out with the strategic discussions that enhance the path of cooperation and integration between the GCC countries in various fields. We hope that this summit will contribute to strengthening the unity of Gulf ranks and advancing the path of cooperation towards more progress and prosperity for the countries and the people of the region. During the 44th summit that was held last year in Doha, there were many files that are similar in general to the files of the current summit now, which are supposed to discuss the results of the recommendations and decisions of the previous summit. The Gulf countries have proceeded to strengthening their relations and coordinate their movements regarding the Palestinian issue and the war in Gaza, and relieve the efforts of the Palestinian people.
And my final question, Mr. Sallal, what impacts could this summit have on strengthening ties with international partners?
Kuwait was the first to initiate the idea of establishing the Gulf Cooperation Council before its establishment, and was keen to establish this Gulf entity to contribute it since its inception 1981 to the achievement of many decisions that serve the interests and unity of the Gulf relations between member states. In confirmation of this, at the beginning of this year in 2024, the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Mish'al Ahmed Al Sabah, visited the Cooperation Council countries right after assuming power in the country. These visits were aimed to strengthening the bridges of partnership in GCC countries by expanding the horizons of economic, security, and defense cooperation. Kuwait demonstrated the sound vision and political acumen of His Highness, the Emir, to establish the solid foundation of Kuwait foreign policy and consolidate the pillars of Kuwait relations with its brothers in the Gulf countries, and confirm Kuwait's steadfast direction and effective role in strengthening Gulf work, as well as embodying its sound vision and pivotal contributions to achieving Gulf, deepening the roots of cooperation between its countries and preserving its security and stability, and establishing its foundation in a way that achieves prosperity and stability of its brotherly countries and people. The depth of the connection and brotherly relations between Kuwait and other Gulf states, represented by the leaders, has made these ties a model for the solid brotherly relations and close ties prevailing between countries, and the bonds that unite them, most history, language, religion, and strengthening of various political, economic, cultural, and the other aspects of their cooperation.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Sallal. We'll be right back after this short break. Well, welcome back, Dr. Al Hamadi, and thank you very much for joining us here at our KTV2 studios. The GCC countries and the European Union member states met in Brussels in October in the first summit of the level of heads of state and government since the launch of official relations between the two sides in 1989. How will this unprecedented meeting impact the Gulf Summit?
Well, look at it first. The European Union is the second largest trade for the GCC, with I believe 170 billion euro just into 2022, according to the WTO. So the economic, there will be many different important topic for the GCC summit to talk about. If we talk about the economic side first, as being, with the GCC has a very important product or energy as far as oil and gas, and with the escalation, the problem with the European importing the gasoline and oil from Russia before, and the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So the European Union is always looking as the GCC as an important trading partner. So that's from security-wise, of course, the European, they have met with the 33 country there discussing the security as well and trying to enforce the United Nations resolutions in terms of all the geopolitics tension, talking about Gaza, talking about the latest ceasefires in Lebanon, and all the surrounding tension. So trying to initiate what the counter-terrorism issue and tension in the region. Of course, the both European Union and the GCC as an important figure to them, which happened for the first time last October. They consider themselves as partners and important partners, discussing politics, economics, and environmental issue, trying to enhance the all the issue to make, of course, both nations a better, well-being in terms of economics issues.
Dr. Hamadi, how will the upcoming Gulf Summit further strengthen the mutual economic bonds among the GCC states?
Well, the upcoming one will benefit the GCC state if we look at it as a different, I mean, when we talk about economics here, economics mean the three parts: social, environmental, and economics as well. So in terms of economics-wise, being able to find what you want, that's by itself is a big benefit for the member state people. Talking about, for example, better education, better health, all these part of what will be discussed as part of economics. Having easy to travel to different members, either using a train or any other mobility. Even they're trying to unify the customs union, trying to make the traveling even for who, for example, if you have a resident in Kuwait, you could be easy to travel to Saudi Arabia without getting a visa, just based on your residency in Kuwait. And this was put in action, but because of the corona and all that, was slowed lots of regulations. And this will be part of the discussion, as well as when you talk about economics-wise, you'll talk about also education, which is the exchange of universities, of the which benefit both the 6 member nations of the GCC.
Well, Dr. Hamadi, if you'll just I'll take a short break, but joining us via telephone is Dr. Mustafa Bahbahani, who is an expert in international affairs and relations, to shed more light on this major event. Good afternoon, Dr. Bahbahani. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Dr. Bahbahani, what key topics do you expect to dominate the discussions at the 45th GCC Summit in Kuwait, and how do you see them shaping regional cooperation?
It is important because of events in the Middle East, what happened in Lebanon and also in Gaza, trying to have the peace after Lebanon and Gaza is very important. And also has to have a coordination for this event. Also to continue the achievement before, keep continuing the achievement, and have a future for the GCC good future in different fields by having a united front and cooperation, and also keep the what is happening regionally and international. So for Kuwait, of course, we need to have with the other countries the train for the movement of citizenship, and also electricity that we are facing. So these, hello?
Hello, Dr. Bahani?
Yes, yes, okay. So it is very important to continue this between countries like we had with Kuwait and Oman and oil fields. So we're having, as I said, to solve the problems regionally and continue developing the transport, and also as will be easier to travel with different ways for the citizens of these countries.
Dr. Mustafa Bahani, thank you very much for joining us during our special coverage of the upcoming GCC summit being held here in the state of Kuwait. Dr. Al-Hamadi, I would like to ask you, in your opinion, what measures are needed to be adopted to boost the GCC's economic and political positions at regional and global levels?
Well, looking at the GCC upcoming summit, there is certain issue need to be, of course, put in to be escalated and to be boosted. One of them, the security issue and the tension as the geopolitics issue around especially the Middle East issue. For example, the most talkative issue is what's happening in Gaza and how devastating the situation coming into the winter, and how getting the humanitarian issue through Rafah and all the gates that it allowed to deliver the food, drinks, all the necessity, especially winter time, is very severe in Gaza. The issue with not allowing the humanitarian issue, it's a big challenge for the GCC to be able to convince the international committee about that humanitarian issue, and this is by itself is a challenge for the upcoming summit. Not to mention, of course, the escalation that the Israeli is putting around the Palestinian people, and how the situation is getting worse and worse every day. The issue that the GCC is, I think they will have a big tension, is how the double standard of some nations, like talking about the terrorism, counter-terrorism attack, and the definition of terrorism. How can you not even think what's happening in Gaza is terrorism by itself? it's a huge massacre of destroying the entire infrastructure, people. I mean, infrastructure, of course, they're always going to be rebuilt. That's not an issue. But how you build people, children, women, it's been all killed in front of people, and they call this as a, a defense, self-defense. In what name can you just say that this is a self-defense? So the escalation or the challenge that the next summit is trying to, I would say, unify the international committee is to put an end to what is the Israelis doing. I can't imagine how Israeli by itself is doing all this against the international. We're saying is what is happening is it's wrong. So it is a big challenge for the next summit. It is, of course, since day one, all the GCC country and the Middle East itself are stepping up to put a ceasefire into this situation. So I believe things, it will be challenging for the next summit itself.
Well, Dr. Hamadi, we will be joined right now from the Media Centre at the Sheraton Hotel with our correspondent Abdulrahman Limhanna to further elaborate on the latest updates. Hello Abdulrahman, can you please give us what are the latest updates? Abdulrahman?
Good evening to you, Lulwa, and good evening to your exclusive guest, and good evening to the viewers of KTV2. And I'm coming to you live from St. Regis Hotel, currently at the Media Centre, organised by the Ministry of Information. The officials of the Ministry of Information are present right here to ensure the smoothness of the processes going on. Everything is provided to even smooth out the processes, even for media officials or media coverages done by different, let's say, media coverages done by the GCC countries or even international centers. As of now, we have many information for the GCC summit. As you know, there is the 45th GCC summit on Sunday, where leaders from across the Gulf would be gathering to discuss the most critical challenges that would be happening and would be on the agenda, that have been already led of the groundwork by the member of Foreign Affairs yesterday's meeting. One of the key topics is the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which the leaders are expected to reaffirm their support and the united stance in supporting Palestinian rights and ending the violence and ensuring the urgent need for the humanitarian aid and ending the violence right away. And also discussions are likely to focus on efforts including financial backing also throughout international institutions or in any other forms, and also of course rebuilding efforts. And as the host, Kuwait also has showcased its leadership role by fostering Gulf unity and collaboration, and has highlighted the shared cultural and historical ties through the GCC Pavilion, the Abdullah Salim Cultural Center's GCC Pavilion, which has been opened in November this month and will be going until December the 13th, which celebrates the Gulf heritage and accomplishments. And it's open to the public, and for GCC members who are present right here in Kuwait could probably visit and see how this cultural landmark aligns with the 45th GCC summit. And of course, before I move on to a special guest that I have right here, we have an important topic to discuss, is the economic integration, which is also high on the agenda of the GCC, which is working on initiatives to diversify its economies and reduce the reliance of oil by investing in renewable energies, sustainability and digital transformation. And of course, there is different projects that the GCC has touched upon, such as the Gulf Railway, which connects most of the 6 GCC member states, whether it be Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. All of the GCC countries have to be connected through that GCC Gulf Railway project. And in terms of length, it's about 2,000 kilometers, and they would probably spend about an estimated amount of $250 billion. And there's been progress between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. We've seen that as they've completed sections, and they target to finish most of it in the coming years. And of course, there's an example of that we have the Etihad rail in the UAE, which was between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and part of Sharjah as well. And eventually it would link most of the Gulf, would help in many things such as freight transportation, reduce logistical cost, and of course would enhance tourism within the GCC countries, which would help the economy grow. And also there is other projects such as the common market, which would help businesses and business entrepreneurs within the GCC invest in other countries with less trade, let's say, restrictions, such as the ones we have now due to the variations we have in taxation policies, monetary policies, and others. And on that note, before we move to the political segment, we have a special guest. We have Amir Sultan, a senior reporter at Middle East Monitor, who would be giving us his insight and special insight due to his experience by living outside the region, and his experience as well in politics on the political side of the GCC summit and its significance. It's very good to have you, Mr. Amir. Thank you for being with us. Can you please begin by telling us what's the significance of the summit?
Thank you very much for having me. I think this summit will be happening in the very turning point in the Middle East. We all know that the war, the Israeli war in Gaza and Lebanon. And just remind the audience that last year, the last summit, the GCC confirmed that the international community should intervene to stop the war in Gaza. We hope that they will repeat this again, and I'm sure that this issue will be dominating the summit on Sunday. And I need only to remind the audience that when the GCC established 43 years ago, they confirmed that the security of the Gulf area is connected to the peace in the Middle East and the just and permanent solution for the Palestinian cause. So this summit will be very important. I think the whole Arab people will look at this summit, hoping that they will hear a strong statement from the Gulf leaders. And especially we know that some of the GCC countries like Kuwait has a good relations with the country like the UK. I think they can play more active role in stopping the war in Gaza.
Since you've mentioned a lot on the relations between the GCC members and the West, how do you briefly view the, let's talk about the view of the West towards such GCC summit? I mean, specifically on that 45th GCC summit.
I expect that the West will be waiting to hear what the GCC leaders would say. And the West are looking at the GCC as a political and economic bloc. It's an important bloc in the Middle East. So they now doing quite well in the economic side, and I guess the bloc itself is very much more qualified now to play a more political role in the region politics. And I think the international community, including the big powers, would like to have some sort of more cooperation with the GCC countries to play more active role in resolving the big issues in the Middle East.
Yes, well, now going from the broader to the internal, going back to the summit, I mean, there is very important high-level files on the agenda. What do you think the most important right now for the GCC summit, which will happen on December the 1st on Sunday?
I think two issues I think will be dominating. Obviously, the Israeli aggression on Gaza and Lebanon, and the second one it's about the security in the Gulf area, because obviously, as I mentioned before, that the security of the Gulf area is connected to the Palestinian cause. I think that we may hear some more information about the cooperation between the GCC countries regarding the regional security.
Can you, before we end, can you tell us an example of a previous resolution in past summit that has been actually, let's say, suggested and implemented, as we can see it on a far more concrete level by the GCC?
Yes, I would actually suggest that whenever the GCC have a will, they will achieve. And I give you one example with the Gulf Investment Corporation, which has been established 2 years after the inception of the GCC, and this corporation is doing very well in terms of the economic cooperation. This corporation is equally owned by the 6 countries of the GCC, and they're doing quite well in terms of the financial services, in economy, and the small businesses. I think this is a good example. I guess the leaders should remind it and to build on it, to have maybe much more wider cooperation. And you mentioned in the introduction the common market. I think this Gulf Investment Corporation, it's a role model. They can build on it.
Thank you so much for your special insight, Mr. Amir Sultan. We are so glad to have you. Well, dear viewers, before we end, I mean, you've heard his special insight, especially when he touched upon how on the political side and how businesses also would benefit from the common market. Because think about it, if we had easing in terms of monetary policies, economic policies and taxation policies, businesses such as, let's say, Kuwaiti entrepreneurs, if they wanted to invest in Saudi Arabia, open up businesses, they'd have the same privileges as Saudi entrepreneurs within their country, and vice versa. That would apply in the intra-GCC. And as of now, we wish that the process of the 1st of December for the 45th GCC summit would go as smooth as possible. Lulwa.
Well, thank you, Abdulrahman. That was Abdulrahman Al-Mhanna from the Media Centre at the St. Regis Hotel. Welcome back, Dr. Hamadi. Sir, I'd like to ask you, so the Palestinian crisis is a high priority for the 45th GCC summit. What's the importance of Gulf and Arab cause in reinforcing the Palestinian cause?
Well, in terms of the conflict, I would say, between the Israeli and Palestinians, the issue now, the important issue is the humanitarian issue. That is with the sanction and the difficulty of transporting the humanitarian, commodity, like product services into Gaza is difficult by itself right now. Most of the border is being either closed or there's a sanction to by the Israelis control. Therefore, I would say that of course, the issue now is the humanitarian issue, especially with the winter coming, and how to put food on tables for these people. I mean, think about it. How long has this issue has been going? Now they have, Kuwait have sent a mobile hospital to Gaza, but destroying all the infrastructure will be difficult to provide health, to provide education. How long are you going to sit without, education, without health, without, the life is health, meaning that it's only matter of they are living day to day, and they don't know how long it's going to be that way. So the issue or the challenge is to convince the international committee is to stand as a real decision and to vote to put an ease to the Palestinian conflict with the Israeli and stop the all the aggression against the Palestinians. This is not a self-defense. Definitely, what happening in Gaza is worse than what happened in Germany for the Israeli themselves, if we talk about that.
Yeah.
But this is, I don't know how they defined the current situation of, in Gaza. So the challenge is, I would say, is to, of course, the GCC leaders are into understanding, trying to put an end to the issue of the Palestinian and trying to ease the situation there in terms of, first, you can't live without food. You can't live without shelter. To them, security nowadays is just living in one day to another. So the leaders will discuss that, and hopefully, and I'm sure they are able, because of their collaboration with international committees.
Dr. Hamadi, well, right now, thank you so much for joining us. Well, this brings us the end of our special coverage that covered the 45th GCC Summit, hoping that you enjoyed the discussions and reviews with our dear guests. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good afternoon.
Welcome your Majesties and Highnesses, leaders of the Gulf countries, to the State of Kuwait. Welcome our esteemed guests to your second homeland, whose leadership and people are sincerely pleased to host you for this major event.